With the release of the spin-off manga Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, there is plenty of new information and lore that has us looking at plenty of the early characters a little differently. Specifically, there is one manga panel that has everybody asking one of the biggest questions. Out of all of the prodigy students that Gojo trained in his heyday, was Itadori Yuji the one that was actually able to surpass him? With the new generation of sorcerers in Modulo coming nowhere near close to the level of power from the sorcerers of old, a cursed user reminisces of the days of the culling game when heroes like Yuji and Gojo Satoru were on the scene. And with Gojo always claiming that people like Yuji might have the power to surpass him, and even the other side of the equation, Ryoma and Sukuna admitting Yuji did have similar levels of potential to him, I want to go over a brief visualization of how powerful a peak Itadori Yuji could be with years of training under his belt. Considering that Yuji was able to become so strong in only a couple months of learning sorcery, and even gained plenty of new abilities in a month time span between the culling game and Shinjuku Showdown, this theory that everybody is talking about might actually be more true than everybody believes. I mean, for starters, even from the beginning of the main series, Itadori Yuji was one of the #1 hand-to-hand and close quarters combatants. If you were to give him years to master cursed energy reinforcement, as well as further refine his martial arts and melee skills, this man could become unstoppable, defeating even Maki Zenin in the physical department and potentially using a bunch of cursed objects from all the different clans, considering he's got the connections to the Kamo, Zenin, and Gojo clans now. But if Yuji is mastering his cursed energy reinforcement, that also means he's obviously gonna master things like reverse curse technique. He was already well on his way during Shinjuku Showdown and barely had a month to do it. So if you give him a couple years, this man is going to be able to heal at such a high speed, an arm or a leg is gonna come back in no time at all. And if we're giving Yuji the ability to just continually devour cursed objects to increase his overall cursed energy output and stock, that means his total cursed energy and stamina is just gonna continually get bigger and bigger and bigger. One of the biggest things that Yuji Itadori also has going for him is the fact that he has multiple different curse techniques. With years of skill in blood manipulation, he's obviously going to be Choso level, if not far above it. Supernova, piercing blood are going to be nothing compared to the skill that Yuji's going to be able to bring to blood manipulation, especially if you're giving him the death painting ability to make blood from his bare cursed energy, meaning he can just create full tidal waves with blood just like Choso did. And Yuji's already one of the fastest people involved in the story, so if you're giving him the ability to throw his poison blood around and also just harden it like Choso does against Naoya, I really don't see anybody comparing to Yuji when it comes to close quarters combat. But maybe Yuji has grown into long range as well after having plenty of years to master his versions of dismantle and cleave, because from the beginning Yuji was not able to use a projectile slash and had to rely on physical contact, but with plenty of years of mastery, I'm sure he would eventually awaken the ability to use projectile slashes. And with Divine Furnace, the fire arrow ability that is born from multiple dismantle and cleaves over time, it wouldn't surprise me if Yuji was able to use his own version of the fire arrow or was able to ignite those flames onto his gauntlet for punches. Again, Yuji also mastered things like barrier techniques when it came to simple domain in like a month. So if Kusakabe was able to attack people from afar and extend the range of his simple domain to do some serious damage to Sukuna, give Yuji a cursed object and he's definitely going to be able to do everything of that nature. Add in things like domain amplification and Yuji's own master domain expansion, he is going to be a severe threat to anybody that goes up against him in battle. One of the biggest questions that is still there though in regards to the end of the series is if Yuji can actually affect the soul on people that aren't straight up vessels like the culling game players or Sukuna inside Megami's body. However, I think with Yuji being able to do research into the soul with all of Yuki Tsukumo's notes, as well as have plenty of years to further refine his control of the soul and his understanding of it, why wouldn't Yuji be able to use soul damage if you don't believe he can already? But is all of this enough to really rival Gojo Satoru? Because not for nothing, Gojo is the honored one for a reason. This man has both the Six Eyes and the Limitless, two of the strongest things in the sorcery world of Jujutsu Kaisen. When it comes to the Six Eyes, no matter how great Yuji gets at cursed energy reinforcement, manipulation, and doing the best he can to stay in the highest forms of stamina, Gojo is always going to remain infinite. With the way that the Six Eyes manipulate cursed energy on a near spatial level, as long as Gojo isn't using reverse curse technique on a high enough level like he was against Sukuna, he's not gonna run out of cursed energy anytime soon. And even though Yuji does have a limit on his stamina, if you consider that he's able to hit Black Flash on Black Flash over and over again to continue stifling his cursed energy and make sure he never runs out, you could probably make the exact same argument for Gojo, because at this point you have the two characters that are the absolute best at hitting Black Flash going up against one another. Even if you want to say Yuji is inflicting enough damage to Gojo, one Black Flash and Gojo's back in the game, which means the real question is whose domain is going to be stronger, because if Yuji truly is able to reach Sukuna level, that is exactly where the battle went to immediately with two such high level sorcerers. And the truth is, the Six Eyes does really help Gojo here. No matter how refined Yuji's able to get his domain on a regular level, Gojo's Six Eyes are always going to amplify his domain conditions and domain barrier, as well as the amount of times Gojo can use his domain. Unless you think Yuji is able to do the exact same thing that Sukuna is with an open barrier, in which case it just comes down to the same tactics as the Gojo vs Sukuna fight. Who is able to cast their domain faster? Would it be Yuji, because technically he might not have a guaranteed kill ability? Or would it be Gojo, who's able to freely change the timing of his domain as seen in Shibuya with the 0.2 domain expansion? Or maybe you think Yuji can do that as well, which really brings up the biggest point when it comes to comparing these two sorcerers. Can Yuji get past Limitless? And even if you want to give Yuji domain amplification, which means in a close quarters fight, Yuji could potentially go through the Limitless's infinite space, putting again the two characters that might have some of the highest level of hand-to-hand against one another doesn't really make things very clear. When it comes down to it, I definitely think Gojo has a severe advantage against Yuji when it comes to combat. However, if you want to say power-wise, peak Yuji is still someone that is capable of reaching Gojo Satoru's level, I personally just don't believe it. Because even with everything that Yuji has in his kit at a complete peak level, he comes nowhere close to the sheer dominance someone like the Honored One has on the battlefield. Almost every other special grade sorcerer, Yuta Okotsu, Yuki Tsukumo, Geto Suguru, and even Kenjaku with his extra abilities and knowledge were all scared shitless about ever having to take Gojo on at full power. And that is just not something you would ever be able to say about Yuji. Even though if Yuji was to go up against any of these special grades, it would probably be an extremely difficult fight. Almost every single one of them has a direct counter for him. It's part of the reason why even in the main series, Yuji Itadori is the strongest when he has someone to back him up like Aoi Todo. But on his own, 1v1, Yuji just lacks a lot of the overpowered hacks that someone like Gojo Satoru has. We're talking a character that's basically invincible unless you're able to sneak away through his Limitless, and has one of the most overpowered techniques in the series through red, blue, and purple that are able to do some of the largest amounts of damage. I mean, we already saw Gojo handle a character like Sukuna who was using projectile slashes like Dismantle and had an insane domain expansion like Malevolent Shrine. So surpassing Gojo for Yuji is frankly just out of the question. I think it's safe to say what this curse user meant by the statement was comparing sorcerers today to the sorcerers of old, not necessarily saying everyone from the old era was a Gojo level sorcerer. Personally, I think Yuji is definitely one of the strongest characters in the series, but the truth is Yuji just does not compare to special grade sorcerers. There are definitely always going to be characters that are way closer to Gojo than he is. Yuji would probably be the strongest grade 1 in the series, but characters like Yuta Okotsu are always going to be closer to Gojo than he is. And if that's a video that you'd be interested in, seeing Yuji take on every special grade sorcerer and seeing how those battles would go, definitely click the like button and comment down below letting me know what your thoughts are on that. I appreciate you guys if you made it this far into the video, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.